Hello, this is Elise from Elise's Sapphic, and in this last week of Pride Month 2021, we are going to be talking about LGBT manga. We're going to be covering the first Sapphic LGBT manga that I have been able to find, pretty much. Have I read it yet? No. Do I know if it's going to be any good? Also, no. But I think it's fascinating, so that's what we're going to be doing. So today, it's going to be Sakura Namiki, which came out in 1957. If you know of anything before this, I'd love to hear it. But this is the earliest I could find. So let's get started. Sakura Namiki, or The Rose of Cherry Blossoms. The art looks so cool, and I find it interesting that right from the start, the set Sapphic things in an all-girls school trope was already in effect, which doesn't seem all that crazy, but I think it's interesting that it's carried on for so long that it's almost synonymous with anime and manga like this. The first part, pulling us into the concept of cherry blossoms knowing all, feels so much more like a picture book versus a typical manga. They're all big, beautiful illustrations, which is blocks of text instead of dialogue. When the story really starts, we learn there's a sports tournament going on. We then meet some I assume to be side characters as they lament about losing almost everything and that they hope that at least with table tennis, their class will be able to pull a victory. Then we meet the three girls who made it to the semifinals. Yukio, a first year, Ayako, a second year, and Chikage, a third year, making this a battle of the classes and hyping up all the spectators. We then get to see the girls fight it out, with the first match being Yukio versus Ayako. Yukio starts to pull ahead and Ayako starts to really put on the pressure. Then we get our first glimpse of the gay, as we learn the reason they're both fighting so hard is because it's also a fight for Chikage's love. After a few more pages of the game, Yukio wins, leaving Ayako to cry and for Yukio to go up against Chikage with her whole class cheering her on. In the match against each other, Yukio swiftly pulls ahead in the first set, but Chikage quickly pulls back ahead. They go back and forth a couple times, Yukio's starting to lose it when she sees her chance to counterattack and takes it, pulling them into a fifth set and helping Yukio get back into the groove and start catching up. At one point in the match, Chikage trips, and instead of Yukio using her signature slam in a show of character, she just gently hits the ball to her. And the game continues. In the end, Chikage is the winner. In the days after, Yukio's feeling good about all of this, happy it's all over and that she won't have to deal with it anymore. But as she's heading to class, her classmates have another idea on the situation, specifically that she threw the game intentionally. Because Ayako and Chikage are pretty much on the same level, so they don't get how Yukio could win 3-0 versus her, but then lose to Chikage. So yeah, disgusting teens being disgusting over something stupid and something that they honestly have no room to be talking about. So Yukio is rightfully hurt by all this and runs to cry on a bench next to a cherry blossom tree and thinks about the situation, giving us a little background info like Ayako constantly wanting to be by Chikage's side and that just driving Chikage away from her. She also then starts to question if maybe she did lose on purpose. Maybe the class is right. She tries to shake the thought away from her, but the lingering doubt doesn't really fade away. She decides she can endure any insult to herself, but the idea of Chikage coming under fire because of her is dreadful. Yukio begins to avoid Chikage, running away when she calls for her because in Yukio's mind there's no way Ayako hasn't been bad-mouthing her to Chikage. Yukio thinks that was probably not the right choice and considers going back, but her legs take her towards the station instead. Once home, we see her going about her night. Then a really interesting sequence that I suspect to be representative of her daydreaming of the events until now while looking into the stars plays out for the next few panels. As it does, Yukio begins to cry. Her mom, realizing she's crying, asks her if she's remembering her father again and tears up herself, then sends her off to bed. While getting ready to sleep, she reminisces about her father while listening to a music box playing this, which is actually what you're listening to right now is my background music. Haha, because I thought that would be kind of cool. We learned her father only passed a year ago, and before he was a college professor. As Yukio drifts to sleep, she remembers the day she met Chikage. Was one summer day while walking, she came across a house and inside someone was playing music. Yukio gets curious and tries to peek in to get a glimpse, just for the maid to accuse her of being a thief. As the maid is trying to drag Yukio inside, Chikage stops her and chastises her for being so rude and tells Yukio that recently someone had broken in, so Otoki, the maid, tends to be overreacting lately. Chikage invites Yukio in and we learn there's a reason Yukio's drawn to this house. It's because it's the one she grew up in. It's the one she was born in. but when her dad got sick, the family decided to sell it so they could pay the medical bills. Chikage is really understanding of all this and welcomes her there with open arms, inviting her to have tea with her and claiming they should do something fun after, including a little montage of different things they did together. Also, I like how it's like, okay, right here, watch this ballet with these two. 11 pages of Dying Swan ballet. Alright, back to the montage. What? Because it just stops in the middle of the montage just to be like, alright, ballet time, here you go. And it's literally 11 pages of just ballet. Like, it doesn't even, like, have a point, like, in terms of the story. Like, I don't think it's symbolic of anything. It's just ballet. But it's fascinating to me. We learn a bit more about Yukio's mom, and that Chikage's dad is the one who landed her work, and that the embroidery she was doing before was just a hobby. Then we are back to Yukio falling asleep, but actually falling asleep now. The next day we learn is Sunday, and that Sundays are when Yukio and Chikage normally have a joint piano lesson, and that it's the day of the week Yukio looks forward to the most out of any. And yet, she's scared to see her. She wants to see her, but is terrified of what she'll think of her now. In the next page, we learn that Yukio avoids Chikage for 10 days. The tennis club teacher advises Yukio to stop skipping practice because she's one of the best they have, and that they need to be able to bring their best to the tournament coming up. But as expected, when she gets close to the club room, her legs lock up and she's scared to go there, scared to face her. We learn that Chikage hasn't been the nicest to her the few times they had run into each other, giving her the cold shoulder and quickly leaving anytime she got a glimpse of her. Though I think that's to be expected when you start to avoid someone. I think it's natural they'd feel betrayed like that and start acting out back. Yukio decides to take a peek into the club room, and after seeing Ayako telling Chikage that they should be on a doubles team for the next tournament, promptly runs away. Though she does pull herself back together and goes back, and challenges Chikage to another game, and even calls her by her first name as she does it. Not gonna lie, at this point I kind of forgot that that's what started all this. But yes, even after putting up a good fight, she still loses once again and is very happy about this. She cries to Chikage about it, and how now she doesn't have to worry what anyone thinks because she knows the truth and that she did not throw the game. Chikage is just better, and now that Yukio knows this as fact, all the fear from before melts away. Shortly after, Chikage and Yukio are walking arms around each other and apologize to one another about their individual issues in this whole situation. Yukio for avoiding Chikage and never just talking to her about all of this, and Chikage for assuming the worst of the situation and thinking poorly of Yukio for what Chikage had seen as abandonment. We get some closing stuff, with both agreeing to do their best at the tennis matches coming up, and Yukio not being resentful of Ayako, and with the cherry blossom trees seeming to be happy about the reunion in the end. Okay, so that was Sakura Namiki. Thoughts? I've seen some people say it's not actually gay, and I think that's stupid. Yukio is very obviously Sapphic. There is no way she isn't. Like, just look at this girl. That's gay. I keep forgetting about the table tennis thing, to be honest. When it popped up, I kept being like, oh yeah, that's the point of this, right? It's not just pining. My bad. And I still can't get over the Swan Ballet. The whole concept of it, just throwing that in there, is hilarious to me. But overall, pretty enjoyable. I had fun with it. I had originally planned to cover Shiroi Heya no Futari from 1971, which is the second earliest I was able to find. But this is one of the longest scripts I've ever done, so I don't think that's a good idea. Maybe another time though. But yes, thanks for coming by. What did you think? Do you like the manga reviews? Do you think I should do more manga reviews? Because I've never actually done that before. What do you think of this retro manga? Let me know in the comments. I'll see you next week. Later, Pixels.